You built the business. Now, build the man. This is the Ben Price experience.
Monica.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, welcome. Who are you and why are you here?
So I am a dating and relationship coach, an author, and a podcast host as well. And I'm here because, well, a mutual friend of ours introduced us, but also I think because we have some synergies in terms of what we're teaching, but just to a different demographic. So I'm focusing on women and you're focusing on men. So I'm excited for us to have this conversation and hear the different perspectives.
Yeah, nice. So we were just saying that we were introduced because I'm part of BIP, which is kind of a networking group. And Penny, you know Penny, who's the ringleader.
Yeah.
Penny. Yeah. And we were talking about King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And then she said, oh, you've got to meet Monica, who's written a book called Queen Treatment. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just behind me here. I don't know if you can see.
So tell us about what is Queen Treatment and what does that mean? And yeah, why is that relevant?
Yeah, so the book is written primarily for single women. It's to help them feel at their most empowered when dating. And I use my framework of Queen Princess and then also King Prince. But the difference between dating from your princess energy, as I describe it in the book, is essentially when you're dating from your princess energy, you don't fully know yourself yet. You don't know your worth. So you're dating from a place of insecurity and from a place of lack, essentially. So then when you go out into the dating scene, you're seeking validation from others. I mean, even in the fairy tales that we grew up with, it was the princess that was locked away up in a tower waiting for this love outside of herself to come and save her. And I feel like that is actually how a lot of women date these days, is they're waiting for this love outside of themselves to make them feel lovable enough, to make them feel worthy of love. Whereas when you're dating from your queen energy, you know yourself, you know your worth, you have self-attunement, self-love, high self-esteem. And so it's a very different energy to be dating from. And then in terms of who you attract into your life, the type of people that you're even attracted to, the type of love that you will accept, the type of standards that you have are very different when you're dating from your queen energy as opposed to your princess energy. And then in terms of the type of men that you attract into your life, I describe it as you either will, like princesses will attract princes into their lives, which again, princes, they don't fully know themselves yet. They're also seeking validation outside of themselves, but that might come in a slightly different form of conquests of women and things like that, or needing to be super flashy with, I don't know, spending or things like that. Whereas a king, again, he knows himself. So he's wanting, an empowered queen by his side rather than a woman who needs saving, which is more the princess energy. So that's kind of the framework in terms of that. But also a key premise of the book is essentially that how you treat yourself and the relationship that you have with yourself will be reflected out in the external world in terms of the relationships that you attract into your life. And it's very much focused on start with the relationship that you have with yourself. And then that will be reflected in the relationships that you have with others as well.
Now I see why we were connected. Yeah, totally agree with everything you said there. How we teach people how to treat us, don't we?
Totally.
We teach
100%.
them how. Yeah. Okay, cool. So in terms of for men, so the prince is the immature king. He's insecure. He doesn't quite know his worth, his power, and it's the same in women. Just call it the queen, right? So it's the same. And what inspired you? Like, how did you create this, or where did it come from? And why did you write? Why did you get into writing this and going down this route?
Well, do you know what's interesting, actually? I'll give another praise to the Power family because Hannah, one of my best friends, who's Penny's daughter, she was actually the one, obviously she grew up with Penny as her mother and Thomas as her father. And so both of them entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial minded as well. And so she was the first person that kind of said to me, this is a really great framework, which I didn't really think about things like that. I just viewed it as I kind of enjoyed the fact that for me, I recognized how I think a big issue for women is essentially that a lot of women feel like once I'm chosen by a man, then I'll be worthy, then I'll be enough. And I think that partly comes down to the fairy tales and how women have been indoctrinated from a very young age through, fairy tales and things like that. And obviously then it flows into society in terms of the narratives that we believe that, we're only successful once we've been chosen by a man, once we've been saved by a man. And that's not to say that I'm not one of those women that thinks, oh, we don't need no man or anything like that. But I think it's a very different place to be dating from, knowing that you are whole as you are, and then just wanting to share this beautiful experience of life with another whole human being, as opposed to desperately seeking for somebody to make you feel lovable enough and to, save you from your lack of lovability, essentially. So that's where the framework was something which I came up with, but then it was Hannah that sort of pointed out that it's actually a framework, because I had never sort of thought about that kind of thing before. So that just happened quite naturally, to be honest. And but then in terms of the book, it actually started maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I'd say, with me just writing journal prompts, because I was going through my own journey of trying to understand. It was basically, I had this moment where things ended with somebody, and the way that it ended was quite similar to the way that things had ended before. And so I started to realize that the common denominator in this situation is me, and there's similar patterns playing out. So I started to recognize that maybe I do have a bit more responsibility over my love life than I've allowed myself to believe. Maybe I'm not just the victim of circumstance. And so that's when I started my own journey. And it started with, I was writing things down that I was learning so that I could really implement it and understand it myself. And so, yeah, this book started out from my own journey of journal prompts. And then gradually, the more that I embodied it, the more I felt like these teachings needed to be out in the world. And and then I got my certification in dating and relationship coaching, and it just all has kind of happened from there. But it basically started out with my own journey and my own kind of turning my own pain into my purpose, essentially.
It's interesting to hear this, because this is quite unusual. I mean, you might feel you're in an echo chamber and lots of people are doing this, but from my point of view, what you're doing is quite unusual. Do you sort of agree with that, or?
I think the angle that I'm taking with it is maybe quite unusual, just because I think when people hear of, especially dating coaching, they think of probably the things that you'd see on TikTok of, how to text the boy, or, those more surface level things, how to dress on your first date or stuff like that. But from my perspective, what I realized from my own experience is that it's our past wounds from our childhood and past relationships and things like that, which play out in our present day relationships. And so in order to sort of help transform your love life, it's not so much about the exterior circumstances. Obviously, you want to put yourself in the right places to be able to meet the type of partner that you want to be meeting, and you want to get clear on the type of person that you want to be meeting and all those kind of things. Present yourself in a way that represents you. But I'm not of the belief that people should have to perform or anything like that in order to, get the guy or get the girl. But I do think that we have a lot of barriers up to love, like, against love, because of our past wounds. And so my work isn't so much to do with trying to control any external circumstances. And it's definitely not to do with performing or becoming somebody other than you are. It's actually, I believe, becoming more of who you are through healing your past wounds.
100%. I was actually thinking it's unusual because I feel most of the pressure is on men in dating.
Interesting. Yeah, I think in terms of, and to be honest, I am maybe a little bit more conservative in the sense of, I do believe that the man should be the one to be pursuing, and I think that comes from, even from the perspective of our biology. I think that is actually necessary for the bonding to happen. But I do think, firstly, I think it's very disempowering to women if we put all the onus on men, that it's their responsibility to do this. When in reality, I think for anybody, if you say that it's somebody else's responsibility to make your life better or to I don't know, make you feel even loved or any of these things, then you're totally disempowering yourself. So, if I do plan to do a little bit of, some talks and things with men. And I would say the same to men, that it's not a woman's responsibility to make you feel lovable or to make your dating life better. You take control of that situation, but the same for women. We all have so much more power in our lives than we're maybe made to believe. And I do believe we are co-creators based on, the energy that we're vibrating from as well. And so if you're vibrating from a place and you hold the limiting beliefs that, there's no good men out there, or, all of these, or, this is out of my control, I'm powerless, like it's up to men to take control of the situation and I can't do anything about it, then, then you might end up attracting more of that into your life through confirmation bias. And even, as I said, I do believe that it should be the man doing the pursuing, but even with that, the woman can instigate that, eye contact, a smile. That is so powerful to sort of
Hmm.
show to a man, you can approach me. And so even though it might look like the man has made the big move, it's actually the woman has played a big role in that as well. So she's not just this like passive observer
Yeah.
of the situation. She's much more active in it.
This is really good. Because I think that a lot of men are really confused, and I would say was as well, about when how to approach a woman, what to say. Am I going to get shouted at because I've been,
Yeah.
I'm harassing her or something like that.
Yeah.
So what do you want to say on that? You want to say
Well,
on that?
yeah, I do think, Me Too and post pandemic, I've heard that from a lot of men, that they're worried that they're going to be called a predator, or they don't feel as comfortable to approach a woman now because there's just such higher stakes in terms of rejection, or as you said, you know, being called a horrible name or things like that, where it can be quite scary for a man to approach a woman. And then with things like the dating apps, I think it's become way more normalized for people to just connect through their screens rather than in person. But I mean, I think you need to have some level of, you know, I think common sense in terms of where you're going to be approaching a woman or how you're going to be doing it. But I do think that when men do approach women now, if done in a respectful way and everything like that, I think women really enjoy it. Maybe some women, obviously we see the memes online and things like that of women getting aggressive about this kind of thing. But then honestly, if a woman is going to get really aggressive about a guy respectfully approaching her, then she probably has some healing work for her to do. And so, it's probably good that you found out at that stage to like not continue dating this person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of women do say that they would love for men to approach more, but then obviously there's maybe a small percentage of women that make it seem so terrifying for a man to do that because of the reaction that maybe a very
Right.
small percentage of women give men. And in the same way, women have that same issue too, because there is a small percent, actually, I say small percentage. Unfortunately, I think what I was going to say is there's a small percentage of men that approach women in a inappropriate way, and then that can taint all men's approach.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if this is 100% the case, but some people will say that the problem is that post Me Too movement and the pandemic and things like that, that it's more the guys that were the more inappropriate approaches that are still doing it because they don't really care if they're called a predator anyway. And then it's actually the really respectful ones that have taken that on board more. So but yeah, I don't know the
I think
statistics
that's
of that. So
I think that's a fair comment. I think
mm.
if we were saying most men are, because a lot of guys, especially young guys I speak to, are like, I'm not even bothering,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
like, they're good looking guys. They're quite successful. It's not.
Yes.
To me, it's like, well, why would you not bother? It's wild. But there's
Yeah.
like this kind of undertone.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many reasons why that could be as well, because again, I think with the dating apps, and even if you know, with things like social media, even with porn, there's a lot of men that are able to get this short-term dopamine hit
Yeah,
without the courtship process, or without having to put themselves out of their comfort zone in order to get reward from a woman. And so I think that could also be playing a little bit of a role in terms of
for
men
sure.
wanting to bother to approach a woman, because maybe they've sort of conditioned
Yeah,
themselves that, well, there's easier ways that I can get the dopamine hit, and
yeah.
even if it's not,
Your needs are being met elsewhere.
you need to what? Sorry.
Your needs as a man are being met elsewhere through porn, and I think
Exactly.
games as well. I think games play a part.
Totally. Yeah. So we're seeing a rise in all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's definitely, I mean, yeah, I say that I think porn is one of the worst things when it comes to the negative effects on modern dating, and obviously relationships as well. But actually, we are seeing a lot more people speaking out about this, and a lot more men speaking out about this. Because I think perhaps before it was, if women spoke about it, then it seemed like a narrative of, oh, women just trying to control men, or women getting jealous, or things like that. When in reality, I just think it's so destructive for long-term relationships, and even, as I said, that courtship process of the dynamics that typically, we've seen throughout history. And some of that is changing, I think, for the negative because of those sorts of short term, not truly fulfilling, but dopamine hits.
Mm. And what are the negatives that you know to be true?
About porn? Well, I think even in terms, and some people might say that I'm too conservative about this kind of thing, but personally, I believe that, if a partner is going to be watching porn whilst in a relationship, then that's him leaking out his sexual energy. I think any type of leaking out your sexual energy away from your partner, even if that's, just liking half naked models on Instagram, things like that, I just personally, I think it's disrespectful, and I think it creates an energy of distrust and a lack of safety as well within the relationship. And I always say that for a woman, her primary need in a relationship is safety. So if she doesn't feel emotionally safe within that dynamic, with that 100% devotion from her partner, and obviously, men are going to find other women attractive, but there's a very different energy to, appreciating the beauty of somebody else, as opposed to making those signals, or even going to that extreme of having your sexual
Mm.
urges fulfilled through somebody else. Um, so that's one element of it. Also, I think it does. I think it does create the belief within some men, especially at a young age, that that they deserve to have the ultimate level of fulfillment and pleasure from a woman without any kind of courtship process, any kind of work being involved in that process. And that's why I
Mm.
say, even to do with the pursue that the men should be the ones pursuing, it's not so much just because of traditional values or things like that. It's because men need to do the pursuing in order for their vasopressin levels to rise. And that's one of the hormones that they need to bond with a woman. And
Yeah.
so if a woman has sex with a guy too soon, and there isn't that process of him, doing work towards, or doing things towards an end goal, then his vasopressin levels aren't going to rise. And then he's not going to have formed that bond with her. Um, so yeah, that's another thing. I mean, also, obviously, if you start watching porn from when you're young, you're just going to keep getting more and more extreme with all the fantasies that, turn you on. And I think that's also really dangerous, because if you think that women in real life are going to enjoy those same things that you're
Mm.
seeing through a screen, yeah, it's very, very wrong. Um, and yeah, even in terms of a man's sort of like sexual essence, they talk about that, what's I can't remember what the name of it, you probably know. There's that community that they don't like come even from masturbation at all or anything, because they want to keep
Oh
that
yeah.
like life force energy. And I don't know the statistics, right? I don't know if that's 100% true, but it feels right to me that, you know, if a guy is like leaking out his sexual energy in that way all the time, then that's his life force energy. So that's his power, that's his, you know, that's his testosterone, that's his drive. So I think even in terms of, you know, doing amazing things in the world, I just feel like leaking out your life force energy to a screen essentially is just very disempowering for men as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's nothing when I was dating, which I'm not now, or I'm always dating, I suppose. Same person. Um, there's nothing more motivating, is there, than the pursuit and
Exactly. And you guys enjoy it. That's the thing. It
yeah,
brings you a sense of fulfillment. And then women enjoy that process too, of feeling like you're devoted to us. And, you know, and the thing is, as well, as what I say to my clients is, don't just believe that somebody likes you based on what they say to you. Look at their actions. And it's the actions that are really going to show how a man feels towards you, especially at those early stages. So if he goes out of his way to provide for your well-being in some way, I think that shows that he's, you know, he's really interested in you rather than just wanting to sleep with you, essentially.
mm. And I think there's a line, isn't there? I suppose, but I guess you just have to play the game and sometimes
Wait,
fuck it up.
explain.
Well, as in, like, one of my clients was saying that he'd been seeing this girl, and it was quite soon, and he wanted to do something which was quite a big act because it was
Mm.
a birthday
Oh,
or
I
something.
see.
And he was like, I don't know if it's a bit too much, a bit too soon.
Interesting. Yeah, this is the thing about dating advice, and this is why I kind of focus on the internal world, is because
Yes.
the external
Are you doing it?
circumstances is
Where are you
so
doing?
subjective, you know,
Mm,
because
totally.
unless you're there in the dynamic and you can really see and get a sense of the energy, you don't know. That might be the most amazing gesture that really solidifies their relationship and makes her like head over heels for him. Or it could, yeah, if she's not ready for that level of commitment, it could cause her to sort of maybe feel like he's being too keen or something like that. But I think, yeah, if he can trust that there is a good dynamic between them, then yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. I don't know what the gesture was, so I don't know how crazy it was.
Yeah.
If it was
I
him
think
getting a tattoo across his chest of her name or something like that, then definitely tell him don't do that.
it's just
But
a
if
small tattoo.
yeah.
It wasn't. Um, yeah, I think what we spoke about was, as long as you're doing it from your kingly place,
Mm,
then
so true. Yeah,
it doesn't matter so much.
exactly.
And if you fuck it up, who cares? But you're from the king. You're doing it from the king, not from the neediness, not from the prince.
Exactly. That's the
You know?
thing with all these, like with the nice guy, for instance, women can sense that energy because you're doing it from a place of lack and seeking validation through those deeds rather than taking that action because you just genuinely want to provide for her well-being and you just enjoy seeing her happy. It's a very different energy.
Yeah, and also I believe in being assertive,
Mm,
not controlling, but assertiveness. So
yes.
rather than like, do you want to go out for dinner? It's, we're going out for dinner at the
Yeah.
restaurant.
Yes. Oh, honestly, and maybe there's some women that don't agree with me on this, but honestly, I feel like the majority of women, especially if women who want to be with a more masculine energy partner, um, oh, it's so nice when we can just relax and just enjoy the ride and not have to, you know, think about all the different logistics and stuff. Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, good to hear you say that. So, one of my questions is, what do you believe that women truly want from men? And and I think it would be good to start with the approach. So that approach, like where it starts,
Mm,
and maybe down the line as a kind of getting into the relationship.
mm. Yeah, I know people like to have, you know, strategies for this kind of stuff, and I will try and do that a bit more. But as I said, with my female clients, I say the same thing, that it's where you're coming from internally with those things that plays, I think, the big. And as I said, it's so
Yeah.
subjective with all these things. So I could say to you, this is how you should approach a woman, this is how you should do this, but different women, it will be different things. So I think focus on your internal world and where you're coming from when you're taking these actions, and that will have a big effect on the outcome. But I think the main, if you want a long-term commitment, I think the main things that women want to see and they need from a relationship is devotion and safety. And safety comes in the form of emotional safety, physical safety, sexual safety, and um, financial safety. To some women, they wouldn't prioritize that as much, but I think in terms of, for me, it's more about the provider mindset that you can see them embodying. So do they want to provide for your well-being? And for some people that will really strongly come in the form of finances and resources and all that kind of stuff. Other women, that wouldn't be such a top priority, but they would want to know that the man still has that provider mindset, to provide for her well-being. And then obviously, the physical safety, I think that comes through that protector mindset, but also physicality and things like that as well. So that's why, if I was to be coaching men, if they were out of shape or, feeling insecure about their body, one of the first things I would tell them is just go to the gym, start lifting weights, feel strong within your own body. Because again, that will be reflected in the energy that you're coming from. And then emotional safety, I think, that comes down to emotional resilience and even having a brotherhood, like going, joining communities like yours where they can, have that safe space to be able to process their emotions without kind of taking it out on their partner. And yeah, emotional safety as well, and sexual safety I kind of put under the same bracket in terms of what we were talking about before of leaking out your sexual energy and things like that. She really wants to feel that she wants to feel fully chosen by you, and not that you're kind of leaking out your desires and your sexual energy to other women. And then devotion obviously is pretty self-explanatory. Like, she wants to feel that she is your number one. She's the person that you see differently to all other women. Um, so yeah, that's what I'd say in terms of what I think women are looking for in terms of energy and what they really need in a relationship.
Cool. So so what you're saying is women want a secure man who's
Yes.
done the work internally.
Yeah, I think some women, if women haven't done the work on themselves, then maybe that's not what they're looking for in terms of a
Yeah.
partnership. But I still think in terms of safety, um, so yes, in terms of emotional safety, I do mean a secure man who knows himself
Yeah.
and all those kind of things. But I think safety, even for a woman who hasn't done that kind of work on herself, I still think she's going
Right.
to want to be with a man who has that provider mindset, the protector mindset, cares for her well-being, considerate of her, and chooses her and is 100% devoted to her.
Mm. Which is probably, when you're secure in who you are and you've done the work, it's kind of just what happens.
I think it's interesting. I think I do agree with you, but I also think there's it's interesting to me how there is some men that have resistance towards essentially stepping into more of their masculine energy. Because there's some men that they don't want to step into that provider because they think that maybe they feel like they're being used or something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe that's the narrative that kind of is told to men, that if you provide for a woman's well-being, she's just going to use you or things like that. So I think with certain men, yes, the more work you do on yourself, the more you want to step into your, masculine energy and be that man in the relationship dynamic. But I do think there's a lot of mixed messages going out to both men and women. And yeah, it can make women feel like they don't want to be as much in their feminine energy because they don't feel safe to be in a relationship dynamic. And it can make men feel like they don't want to be the providers or the protectors because they kind of want somebody else to do it for them.
Yeah. Well, I think most of us don't know.
Mm,
We don't know what that looks like either.
yeah,
So having this conversation is really, really awesome, and the work you do is great. And I think like when the guys come on the camps, this is kind of some of the stuff we talk about, because when did we ever get initiated or told like this is how it goes and this is what it
exactly.
looks like?
Exactly. And you might have even seen that from, imagine if you had a father who was the provider in the relationship dynamic, but then your parents got divorced and your mum, took all of his money, and that was the narrative that your dad said to you was, oh, don't trust women, they're just going to take all your money, things like that. Then that will be your limiting belief that you hold on to in relationships. And interestingly, you probably will actually attract women who do want to just use you for your money or things like that, because of confirmation bias and how you've associated, that's the dynamic that you've associated love to be. So you might not consciously choose it, and so you might not consciously want that, but often we do see those kind of patterns playing out. Yeah, and even, our parents' generation and their parents' generation, we have so much more education now around all of these kind of things, around the, you know, and even in terms of women's rights and all these kind of things. Like we're living in such an interesting time right now, which has never really been experienced before for both men and women. So I think both men and women are just trying to navigate this. Men are trying to navigate the fact that they don't have as much of a clear sort of role, like single role within the relationship. And so before it was that the mothers stayed at home, didn't work, and then the fathers, they did all of that side of things. But now those dynamics have become very mixed, and so yeah, I think this is kind of the time of, I guess, sort of exploration and confusion and trial and error, essentially, when it comes to these things. But that's why I do feel that we do need to educate ourselves about it and hear different perspectives as well. I think we can go so much in this tunnel of information around this one certain narrative, and yeah, I just think it's important to hear different perspectives about things, because for me, this is many years ago, but it did change my perspective. There's a book actually that I read, what's his name, is it Steve Harvey, who wrote act like a act like a man, no, think like a man, no, act like a woman, think like a man.
Act like a woman, think
So
like a man. Okay.
I can't remember which order it's anyway.
Yeah.
But basically it's essentially talking about these like gender roles and with dating, and I remember reading it the first time and just really not like, and even Women Are From Venus, Men Are From Mars. I remember the first time I read that book as well,
Yeah.
I felt very triggered by it, and I thought, no, it's not these gender roles, like I can do all of this stuff, and I felt very much like I don't need no man for this situation almost. And then I guess when I started my own feminine energy journey, and recognizing the power of, more feminine or feminine energy superpowers,
Yeah.
um, I just recognized how much I was actually disempowering myself by rejecting that part of myself, and rejecting the understanding that men and women are different, and we do have different superpowers which come more innately to us. And just because women, we can earn money now and we can do all these things, it it's not to say that we should be running on the exact same cycle as men, because our endocrine systems are different. Our hormones are different. You guys have a 24-hour cycle, we have a 28 to 35-day cycle. And so honoring rest, for instance, that's just so not in the rhetoric of today's society in terms of the workplace. But I think if women started to honor the differences between both men and women, and just honoring ourselves and our bodies more, then I think we'd be seeing a lot less health issues among women as well, and women would actually feel even more empowered. I think it's amazing what's already happened in terms of the empowerment of women, but I think there's still part to go.
Yeah. It's confusing because and I've experienced this. Part of the confusion is well, we want to provide safety to women, and part of that safety has always been financial safety. But
Mm,
women are out earning men,
mm,
like in a
yeah,
quite a big way now. Um,
yes,
and I had to navigate that for myself. I was like, oh shit,
yes.
yeah,
But I think in terms of providing, I think um this is part of what men I think get a bit confused by is you don't need to be the primary breadwinner. You don't need to be the one that's earning the most amount of money within your dynamic to still provide for her well-being.
mm,
And that's why I say about a provider mindset, because also you can be incredibly rich and not have a provider mindset. So you can use your finances rather than to provide safety. You can use it to control, to manipulate, and it will actually create a deep lack of safety within the relationship dynamic. So
yeah,
it's more about the provider mindset, I think. And so that's just more about, consideration for how she feels. And also, do you want to to provide for her well-being, or are you doing it just because you feel like you have to, or she nagged you to do it, or because people are looking, so it's going to make you look good if if you get her that gift or whatever. I think it's a provider mindset that women should be looking for. Not, it doesn't need to be that he's earning six figures or whatever it might be. It's the provider mindset that's really going to provide you with that sense of safety within the relationship.
yeah, yeah. Nice. Okay, there's another thing that I wanted to pick up on,
Uh-huh.
and that is, so we want our men to be vulnerable and to speak about emotionally what's happening inside of them.
Mm.
But what I heard you say just now is don't necessarily want to hear that from you. Go and do that somewhere else, basically. But I want you to go and do it, but go and do it like because I've
Yeah,
got my own.
yeah. I think it's more that I think women have women have had sisterhood. Like, if I go through something, I have so many people I can speak to about it. And so it's more that I just don't think men should bottle everything in. And I also don't think for anything that you want in a relationship, I don't think you should put all of it onto your partner. The same for women, by the way. I don't
Yeah.
think women should be putting all of their emotional stuff onto the man that they're with. But of course, I do think that a man needs to feel safe to be vulnerable within his relationship dynamic with a woman, 100%. And I do
Mm.
think the ability for men to open up about that more, women need to take more responsibility um, to help cultivate that as well within a relationship. Um, but I just really see the importance of brotherhood and men's groups like what you're doing, because from my perspective as a woman as well, there are certain things that a man just won't fully understand, whereas my female friends, they
Mm.
totally can relate because they probably experienced it in some way, shape, or form. And the same for men. So I definitely do think that it's women, especially in a relationship dynamic, that needs to be the place that men feel safe to express themselves. I just think in terms of the most effective way, have a tribe of people that you can go to, not just your
Yeah.
partner, because she might not understand how you're feeling about certain things because she can't relate to it. Um, but yeah, I do think that women need to play a role in that, in terms of, because women will complain about men not having the same level of emotional intelligence as women in some, not saying all, but typically. And then that but then women aren't doing anything to like help that dynamic for men to feel safe to connect to their emotions on a deeper level. So yeah, I think it takes both men and women to help that dynamic.
So what can obviously men can get into these spaces, and it's if you're listening, it can be difficult to find the spaces, but they are out there.
Yeah.
But what can women do to allow that or encourage that?
Well, I think having it so that the man feels safe, like when the first time that he opens up about his emotions, or and holding space for him as well, because I think something that women will do sometimes is they'll ask a question and then they'll just they'll think that by answering and providing answers, or providing different options of answers to the question and things like that, that they're helping, encouraging him to speak. But actually, I think sometimes men just really need you to hold space for them and like allow there to be the silence for him to process and think about what he wants to say, and then allowing him to say how he's feeling and making sure that there's no energy around it at all where he might think that wasn't safe for me to express how I felt in that situation. Because I have heard, some of my male friends have expressed that when they've been with someone, that the woman, when they cried in front of the woman that they were with for the first time, she couldn't handle it, and she didn't like it. And so yeah, I think just women holding space and obviously not, I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but obviously not freaking out if the guy cries or things like that. And yeah, just encouraging that safe space for you guys to talk about those deeper topics. I know that's not, some couples don't want to have that kind of dynamic, and that's fine. But if you do want your partner to open up more about his emotions, then just really cultivating an environment that feels safe for him to do that, and being patient with him as well, because it might not be the kind of thing that can just happen overnight. If he grew up in a household where he was told the narrative that men don't cry, men don't express emotions, men don't speak about their emotions, then that's a deeply ingrained limiting belief of his, which is going to take a while for that to unpack. And yeah, you just need to be patient and create that safe space for him to be able to do that. But it takes the man to do the work as well. But within your relationship dynamic, I think just really holding space for somebody is going to be an effective way to help that.
Awesome. Lovely. This is a great conversation. I feel like we could keep going. But before we do, what are your ambitions? What do you hope to achieve in the world?
Oh, wow. I've never been asked that question on a podcast before, but I love the question. I actually have some quite big goals with this. I'd really like to just, but I guess what it comes down to is I just really want to help people form, both men and women, form healthier relationships, first and foremost, actually with themselves, and then with other people. Because I think that's where it begins, is your relationship with yourself, to be honest. But yeah, honestly, I feel like I am on a bit of a mission with this, because I do see that modern dating is crazy. It's a minefield out there. It's the Wild West. And even in relationships, I think there's so much misinformation about what it means, what a healthy relationship truly is. I think we're bombarded with all these mixed messages on media, reality TV, social media. And then, as we said, with porn, and now it's going to be AI robot porn and all that kind of stuff. It's like we could go down a really dark route with that stuff. And we're seeing less relationships staying together. We're seeing all these statistics which just don't look great. And so yeah, I'd really like to help that, because I really do believe in love. I believe in long-term partnership. I believe in the family unit, all of that kind of stuff. And I believe that there's so much beauty to that and so much more fulfillment to that than short-term hedonism. But I feel like short-term hedonism is much more promoted in society these days. And it's all becoming much more seductive to certain audiences as well. And so, it makes me sad as well how much divisive language is used between men and women as well. So I'd love to also help men and women just understand each other's differences, and therefore have more compassion for each other's differences, because I think that will make a huge impact on relationships, conflict repair, and even, dating dynamics, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's quite a long-winded answer, but yeah,
it shows your passion on the subject.
I really am very passionate about it.
Well, I love the one of the, I think, I don't know if you listened to that podcast I sent you, but they talked about should we have, because like you said, there are differences, and one of the things that kind of says we're the same are same-sex toilets.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
No.
Definitely not.
No, Yeah, I think it's so strange that is even, and I think about with it's more for the children. As an adult, yes, I would find it very strange, but I know I can keep myself safe, but in nightclub environments when girls are drunk, who knows? And then I just think of with kids, I just think that would be so traumatic for a child to be getting changed in the changing room of her swimming club. It would be very
Yeah.
confusing, I think, and I think, yeah, I mean, I don't want to go down the too like we'll get cancelled, but yeah, it's just interesting to me how controversial it's become to talk about embracing the differences between men and women, and embracing that within yourself as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the whole toilet thing is, it's
It's just
interesting.
confusing.
Mm.
Adds to the confusion and
Mm.
yeah. What so my next question is what's the biggest challenge that you face in your mission? I think I kind of heard it is just the trying to counter the rhetoric essentially.
Yeah, I think there's a really strong rhetoric, and I don't think we believe how much I don't think we truly understand how much we're indoctrinated by the media that we surround ourselves with, the narratives that we surround ourselves with, the limiting beliefs, all of that kind of stuff. And then obviously, it's hard enough when we do take, from our past wounds and things like that, we do operate from that place. And so it's hard enough to heal that stuff, then let alone with all the messages that are coming at us about what it means to be in a healthy relationship. As long as you can get a good Instagram photo together, then you're in this healthy relationship. And it's like,
Oh, we're
so,
we're screwed then, me and my other half.
and even, with Love Island and these shows, it just worries me that what are the younger generations going to think is a healthy relationship or is a normal relationship.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I there's a lot basically, but as you said, it's
Yeah.
kind of what it all encompasses is just the rhetoric that we're constantly bombarded with.
Well, I think it's super important and worthy work
Mm,
because not only because, well, it's one of the kind of key things that most humans really need to have a content life. I would say is a healthy relationship.
really?
Um, but really, everything's relationship.
Yeah,
All business is relationship.
yeah.
Really.
And I think also, there is the narrative of, focus on all these shiny things, but in reality, even if you do the amazing business things and do all of these exterior things, at the end of the day, if you don't have someone to share those experiences with, I just don't think any of that is going to be
Mm.
as fulfilling as you think it's going to be without
Yeah.
someone who you love to share it with.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to say, or anything we?
No, no, that was great. I loved it.
Great. How do people find more about you and your work, and if they want some help, how do they get
Yeah.
in touch?
So my Instagram and my YouTube is withlove.monica. My TikTok is withlove.monicawadwa, and my website is monicawadwa.com.
Awesome. And your book is Queen Treatment.
It's called Queen Treatment. Yes.
Congratulations. When did it come out? When did you?
Um, it came out, I think, the end of August.
Okay, so
But
still
I've been doing quite a bit of traveling and things like that, so I haven't been doing as much promoting of it as I probably should have. I've moved back to Dubai, so that but anyway,
right.
I'm promoting it now.
You're promoting it now. You're promoting it right now. This can count as promotion work.
Yes.
Um, Brilliant. And you're coming to the UK in May. Did you say you think you might be
Yeah,
coming over?
yes, I'm coming for
Yeah.
a friend's wedding.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about maybe getting you on some men's camp and talking to the men.
I'd love that. I actually have my first talk to a men's group about these kind of topics that I've just spoken to you about in January. So I do really want to start speaking to more men. So yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, that would be cool. One, we could do like you do a women's group, I do the men's group,
Yeah,
because
I'd
I've got
love.
loads of women who want to come on the camp, but I'm like, well, it's kind of for men. So.
Amazing. Yes. And then if some of them are single as well, then we might do
Yes,
some
very
matchmaking.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep thinking I want to eventually have this like little, dating agency going on because
Yeah, it'd be a great
most,
filtration process, those
yeah.
sorts of things, because it would be very like-minded people. So
Well,
yeah,
they, I mean, I can speak from my experience is that I have become more attractive this year because of all the work I've been doing on myself.
100%.
And not just to women, but just to all kinds of opportunities. Just
Yeah, amazing.
noticing them and being,
Definitely.
random things. Many random things have happened this year, which have been great.
Beautiful. Amazing.
All right. Cheers, Monica. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you so much, Ben. Thank you.
Lots of love. See you soon. Bye. You've been listening to the Ben Price Experience. These conversations are not just entertainment. They are also an invitation to confront the truth about what you are experiencing in life right this moment. An opportunity to upgrade your standards, to lead from a more powerful, grounded place. If some of these messages hit home, then maybe it is time to go deeper into who you are and who you are being. For men, I run a camp called the CEO Camp Out, or Campochi. You might have heard of me, refer it to. You can find it at www.ceocampout.com. This is time off grid with other men who are refusing mediocrity. We ditch our phones. We be honest about what's going on in our lives. We connect with one another. We have delicious food, fire, hiking, playing around in the woods. It's really, really powerful, relaxing experience. You'll get challenged in a positive way, but you'll walk away from it the most clear you've probably ever been in a long time, and the most relaxed you've ever been in a long time. So check out the website ceocampout.com, and if you want to inquire as to how to work with me, just drop me a message at Coach Ben Price, and I'd love to just connect with you if you've been impacted by anything in the podcast, not necessarily to work with each other, but just to connect, just to help in any way and serve in any way that I can. All right, lots of love and thanks for listening. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us elevate. If you would leave a comment as well, that would be amazing, and share it with somebody who you think would be impacted by the message in this episode. All right, lots of love. See you soon.